Good evening, Malaysia, and followers from around the world. Tonight we have Daphne Iking. Daphne Iking
Woohoo!
is a media personality. She is a television host, a social media influencer, MC, scriptwriter, producer, actress, and please, she's more than just a pretty face. If you know her well, definitely has a bachelor's and a master's degree in communications from University Science Malaysia. She has a sharp mind, sharp tongue, but she also has a big heart, and she gives time for good causes like the Breast Cancer Awareness Week. So definitely, we are very happy to have you with us. Please tell us how you got involved as an advocate, as an ambassador for this the Breast Cancer Awareness Week or a month. Okay.
Well, my family has a very bad history of cancer from my grandparents to my relatives. And my father, in fact, passed away due to cancer. So anything cancer related, I've always been someone who likes to raise awareness on, ensuring that you get your checkups done. And because, of course, being a woman, being someone who is very much into her fellowship and sisterhood, I think breast cancer is something that we need to create awareness over and over and over again because as long as we have the awareness that early detection is, it really is important. It's something that I strongly advocate, not just for breast cancer, but everything, your general health purpose, in whole. But yeah, specifically for breast cancer because of the fact that I have cancer in the family and the risks is very high for me.
So you go for your regular checkups because of this family history?
Yes, I do actually. I try and get my whole family to do their medical checkup, especially my husband and I. And I do regular breast examination on myself. My husband loves to do it to me too. And I joke about this, but I also tell the women who mungkin malu-malu want to talk about
Yeah.
this. I say, suruh laki kau ba kalau masa kamu berintimasi itu kan, you ask him to, help you out because he would also be familiar
Okay.
with your breast. And I say this even though I'm someone who advocates and creates awareness on this. Sometimes I also feel a bit flushed and a bit blush
Mm.
talking to a man about this. But this is something that we need
Yeah.
to to speak about because you know your breast well. Your
Yeah.
spouse may know something that you may not notice also, and they are probably the best persons to tell you that hey, I think there's something a little off about your breast. Do you want to check with the doctor or something and just express it.
Yeah, I think that's normal. My wife occasionally she'll say, I think I got a lump here, I got a lump there. So she'll say, can you check for me? But the
Oh,
problem is
good.
that I check it and I say, I'm not a doctor, okay? I'm not
Yeah.
a doctor. I think it's better that you go and have you been examined by a real doctor because you know that you don't want to have this a false kind of alarm and you're not adequate at what you're doing. But I think that
Betul.
this sense of being fearful, I think is good because then that you will not have this false sense of detention because
Like everything's okay like
yeah,
that
yeah.
kan?
If you look at the numbers, that for women,
Yep.
breast cancer is the most common cancer in women in
Yeah.
almost all countries, Malaysia included, and that in Malaysia, definitely about 1 in 19 women in this country are at risk compared to 1 in 8 in Europe and the US. So for breast cancer for 2003, and this is of course is an old figure, 64% were women between the ages of 40 and 60. Now that's already a high number. Okay. Now
And that's the category that I'm in.
okay, yeah, yeah.
So
So
scary.
now, over the past few years, as a ambassador of this campaign, what were your duties? What do you have to do?
I think every time organizations or NGOs call me to speak about the awareness, it used to be more of more surface where I appear for the events
Okay.
and maybe I'll do a shout out. Back then when I started, we didn't have much of social media, so it was more on
Yeah.
print and media, TV. So I would do what I can do, and then when more and more my own relatives started passing away because of cancer, that was where I was more invested. And I started doing my research and I found out that there's not much budget allocated for research for breast. I mean, for cancer, and breast in particular. And I think now it's improved by leaps and bounds. That's definitely for sure. But because of that, that's why I like to bring this conversation up more openly, more candidly, if it helps, and to just do whatever I can to raise the awareness and to raise the funds needed. So it's no longer just NGOs inviting me or charity people coming in. Daph, can you do this? Can you do a run for this? I still do that. I love it, but I think I'm more proactive in getting the awareness out and about. So when you told me that we're going to do this interview, and I'm like, yes, let's do it. When? So things like that,
Yeah, I think that this awareness needs to be continued. And you've been trying to raise funds with our weak economy, with COVID-19. It has been really difficult for churches, for NGOs to actually raise money.
Because everyone needs it. And you just struck a chord there. Because of the COVID-19 cases, I think I was just in the hospital just now talking about this again with another hospital. And it's really scary because of the COVID-19 cases, a lot of people takut to go to hospital.
Yeah.
Why? Because they takut kena infection. So they want to lessen the exposure, which is fair enough, fine. But it's become so bad that those who suspect that they have breast cancer, they said, wait lah. They fear more the COVID than the potential risk of them having breast cancer. Or some of those who have been diagnosed, they put off therapy or procedures being done, like biopsies and stuff, because they feel, later lah. Like some hospitals, I think private as well as public hospitals, have decided, okay, this is not as important yet. We should treat those with COVID-19 cases, or it's not considered a very risky disease that it needs attention right away. So COVID-19 has really pulled that attention away, and that's why we have to bring it back. And it's quite timely that we're doing it now, this month of October, now that we are back in CMC. Oh, Chunwai.
Yeah.
So it's good that we're having this talk in conjunction with Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
Definitely, you come from Sabah.
Yep.
You know the rural areas in Sabah like the palm of your hand. Okay.
Wow.
Now,
Okay
you would have visited these rural people, and that those in the cities, they have access to health facilities. They know where to go for their checkups. But those in the rural areas, through experiences, what has it been like to talk to these rural people?
It's very frustrating, Chunwai. My mother's a nurse, or was a nurse. So she is still able to convince them because she's a local herself. She's orang kampung. So she will convince them in whatever scientific terms that she can make them understand in that way. But some of them still refuse. Like they say, tidak apa ba ini, saya letak saja tabako, mati juga tu kuman. They think it's kuman. They think it's germs, and before it's too late. And one of the persons who was very close to me was my grandfather, my Aki himself. And he's a well-educated man, speaks beautiful English, beautiful handwriting, but even he had that fear. I know you're not talking about breast cancer per se, but he had throat cancer, and he waited. The tumor was so huge, and he said, "Inapa ni, boleh ni." He started using apa itu pacat ba? What is pacat lah? Pacat lah. The leech. The leeches. The leeches to go and makan his tumor. Yeah, and it was so smelly, so busuk. But he, at the same time, like, my father said, the old man is very stubborn. Let him do what he feels is best for him. And mom was trying her level best to say he needs to seek medical intervention here. Like, So, and we're talking about a well-educated man he's a teacher in his kampung. But even he pun macam ragu-ragu. So, can you imagine those yang betul-betul dalam rural area ba? Yang they say, boleh ba ini traditional? Tidak teruk ni. Boleh ba ini? Yeah.
And
so it's very frustrating.
It's not felt immediately. Like all cancer, it's not felt immediately. So
yeah,
they prolong it, until that is really bad. Stage 4 by then.
Admittedly, they have a better lifestyle than most city folks lah. Because of very simple life and stuff like that. But yeah, when it does hit them, they are scared, or they're fearful, or they don't have access. Because they have to go to KK, which is another 2-3 hours away from where they are, and they're going to leave behind their livelihood, and they've got the anak beranak also. It's understandable. The treatment is very far. It's understandable why they have that fear. And then it's not just sekali masuk hospital, okay, done everything. You have to go for, depending on which treatments have been, diagnosed for you. You have to go a few times. Kalau chemotherapy, and then if you have to go through government hospitals, it might be a long waiting period. So it's tricky.
That definitely people always assume that if you have a family history, then the chances of you getting the cancer, whether it's breast cancer or something else, would be pretty what do you call it normal. But I think it is also a myth that even though your family may be completely safe, that they don't have any history of cancer, you can still get cancer. And I think that's the point we also need to drive through.
Yeah, it's true. And it's not just women who get cancer, breast cancer, men too. Of course, the percentage is much, much lower, but there are the possibilities. So that's something that we need to educate everyone. And it all boils down to we don't have the specific reasons why cancer happens. There's a lot of they always say it's about your lifestyle and stuff, but you're right. It's sometimes you might not be having the genetics of the genes of cancer, or you lead a perfect lifestyle, meaning there's no alcohol, no drinking, no smoking, no healthy lifestyle, and yet bam kena. So it can hit anyone. But yes, if you are a high risk category, then that's where you're supposed to be even more careful and mindful with how you live your life.
But for breast cancer, for as a yoga practitioner like you, obviously that exercise, practicing yoga, and that you're saying a healthy lifestyle, not smoking, not drinking excessively, it helps, right?
Oh, definitely. I think if you should live a healthy lifestyle, not just to combat cancer, but for your own good anyway. But of course, having regular exercises, eating a really good meal, but not depriving yourself from pleasures in your life. So if you like a wine or two, or whiskey or two, go ahead, by all means, but in moderation. So I think that helps. And even in exercise, I see some of my friends get a little bit stressed out because anything that becomes an addiction is bad for you. So I've got some friends who get so addicted with running or like going crazy, a little bit crazy with their cycling and stuff like that, until they become sick. So I'm like, wait a minute, isn't he like a health freak because he's always exercising? So kena berjaga-jaga lah. I always strongly believe the route of moderation is the way to go. And stick to being healthy and being happy.
It's like those muscle builders. They take a lot of what they call it, steroid, or I don't know. I don't think steroid, right? What kind of stuff do they take?
I don't know what they put lah. They want to make them plump all kan, big
so
like that.
It's just not natural when at the way they look, eh? Okay, now
but they like it,
Stephanie, I know we definitely when we look at racial background, I know that we want to look at it as a Malaysian, as cutting away races, but somehow or another Chinese women seems to have the greatest risk with incidence of 59.7% per 100,000 people, followed by Indian women 55.8%, and Malay women 33.9%. So I do not know why that Chinese women would be most likely to have breast cancer compared to other races. I don't know about breast cancer. I know that for diabetes, Indians and Malays are very high because of the food consumption. In the case of nose cancer, because of racial genetic, this is Chinese comes from southern China, and they take a lot of this what do you call it, salt fish, salted fish, and then that the kind of food that they eat, pickled vegetables. So those are bad for nose cancer. But I can't figure out why Chinese women in Malaysia seems to be more prone to breast cancer. Have you heard anything of that kind?
No, I haven't. But or could it be because these are the reported cases?
Could be.
It goes back to well, we're not trying to stereotype here, but let's just say most of the Chinese live in maybe bandar or city area. The Indians and the Malays are more in the rural, and they are more happy to go down the traditional route, so they don't get medical intervention. I don't know. I'm just playing guessing game here, but that could be another one because I'm quite surprised with the statistics when I read about that too. How Chinese and then it's Indian, Malay. Yeah.
Definitely. Well, definitely. What is this wearing of this pink color thing? What is it supposed to symbolize? What does it really mean? Why pink?
Do you know, funnily enough, this story about this pink ribbon actually started from someone who was diagnosed. I think she was a grandmother of some sort. And it started out not with a pink ribbon, but it was a peach ribbon. So almost similar in that sense because she likes the color peach. And she wanted to create awareness that at that time in US, if I'm not mistaken, they had a huge budget for the Cancer Foundation, but only 5% went to research. So you've got all that budget, like 1.8 billion or million, I can't remember, but only 5% of that went to research. So she was asking that, okay, let's do this awareness. She started making these peach ribbons, peach loops, not even ribbons, but loops, and then to create the awareness that, we want to make sure that more money is pumped into research because then preventive is better than cure. What? So that's her reasoning, apparently. And fast forward years later, I think everyone started jumping on the bandwagon because they started with the yellow ribbon because of the war and how. So it started with that ribbon thing, and then a company which I think we're all familiar with, Estee Lauder, actually wanted to do this pink ribbon, or they wanted to sort of latch on to the idea that was already initiated by this lady, the 68-year-old lady with the peach ribbon. But apparently she was not, maybe she felt that they were too commercial or they were going to hijack her cause. I don't know. So that's when peach became pink. And then it became like a universal symbol for breast cancer awareness throughout the world. Nobody actually owns it per se, but that is the story behind it, apparently. So everyone recognizes that the pink ribbon automatically means breast cancer awareness.
I think that the campaign is still pretty new to most Malaysians. It's been going on for a couple of years, but I think if you do a campaign to ask the average Malaysians what's this pink ribbon campaign about, I think that many of them would not realize it. And it's really a sad case that I really feel that the government or the authorities should really instill this awareness at the school level, the entrance level. So when kids grow up, whether they are boys or they are girls, that they realize the importance of taking care of themselves, But that's not really happening yet. It is still very much a private sector initiative, And then it always comes down to funds. I don't understand why it must be funds, okay? Tara budget, Tara budget, which I think is a lot of crap, okay? The sense of importance is just not there, and it sometimes can be really frustrating because it affects your mom, your sister, your auntie, like your family members.
And I think it could boil down also to the taboo because we're talking about breasts. Breasts. I'm slightly segueing from the topic here, but the fact that I breastfeed, for instance, and I was with my son, breastfeeding him in a public place, and I'm not showing my boobs. Of course, when I'm latching him on discreetly, I'll do a discreet, but I don't wear a cover because my son doesn't like the cover. So his mouth is covering whatever assets, but he's obviously breastfeeding off my breast, right? And someone actually came up to me and said, "Ma'am, you can't do this here." And I said, "Why?" "I'm feeding my son because a lot of people are feeling uncomfortable." Breastfeeding is the most natural thing. It started from God, before we had even formula milk and stuff like that. So why is it a bad thing? And it goes back to that retrospect of breast cancer. Oh, boob. Oh, tete. Oh, ni. So much, because it's always associated with sex. Sex then is now dirty because sex is now porn and dirty and kotor and this. It's just like how we speak about our menstruation cycle. When I talk about my periods or when I talk about genital parts, I'm saying it with their scientific terms like penis and vagina. People go, oh my God. And I'm like, why are we going, oh my God, or cringe when we're talking about our scientific terms of our genitals? So again, the breast is a private part. And it's a bit of taboo. They go like, jangan bintang, It's the same like, don't talk about, what is that? See, I cannot remember the name already. For men, you guys would have prostate cancer. So they won't talk about, they'll talk about lung cancer. They'll talk about diabetes. They'll talk about heart diseases. But they won't talk about breast cancer. They won't talk about prostate cancer. Because it's something that is a little bit too taboo. Because it involves our private parts. I think so.
And these are natural body parts, which is quite amazing, right?
Exactly.
You posted on the Instagram a picture of you breastfeeding your child at Port Dickson at the beach. Did you have any problem over there?
Port Dickson?
Yeah, there was a picture of you. You say that you were breastfeeding.
Oh, yes. Oh, well, I think most of my followers, because I don't buy followers, so most of my followers are authentic, so they follow me for me. But I have received one or two people who will DM me to not mengaibkan diri, to say that, Dev, kalau boleh pakailah shawl, just sharing, lagi elok, tak manis, and all that crap lah. And but I sort of just, if I'm in a good mood, then I'll address them. I said, anak I memang tak suka cover. Dia panas, dia rimas. Nanti kesian anak I. Lagi lapar, kesian kan? Lagi kesian kan? Or if I'm not in the good mood at all, or I just don't want to layan this person because dia sibuk, then I just tak layan lah. Because people will have their own opinions, and everyone is entitled to their own opinion. I completely agree to disagree, but come on.
Yeah.
So yes, I have had my share of, highbrows. I mean, people going like, why is she doing that? Why is she breastfeeding in public? Why is she talking about breasts so openly? I've got a girlfriend who has an abundance of breast milk. So she and her friends, and I'm on board just because I'm her good friend, she's created sabun tete. I said casually, why don't you just call it sabun tete, because it's milk from your tete, right? And she did, because it's catchy, And of course, she naturally got some backlash also, because she's, one on the religious part aspect of it, saying that, breast milk cannot be shared among other people. And but a lot of people were for it, saying that it's great because the goodness of breast milk is good. So just recently, on because it's the Breast Cancer Awareness Month, she created sabun tetes of little titties, and she posted it up because she said, if you buy the sabun for this month, the part proceeds will go to a breast cancer awareness program that I believe in, yada yada. And a lot of people were okay with it, but there were one or two who were saying like, Astaghfirullahalazim, why are you doing a sabun on tete? Again, it's so natural to have tete. And her niyat was to create awareness on breast cancer awareness. So yeah, to each their own, Chunwai. But yeah, you do still have people who are a little bit still about this.
And that comes to the point where breastfeeding is not really encouraged in Malaysia, not in a way that we want it to be, when it's so natural and much more nutritional than stuff that they buy from the shops, And some we know that in rural areas, we know that the poor even give condensed milk to their kids.
I was just talking to someone about that because we're trying to raise funds for Sabah, because of course they've gone through the PKP, the CMCO earlier than us, kan? And a lot of them don't have access to susu. And then I forgot yang condensed milk is much cheaper, because you take satu sudu, you bancu with water, can feed already one anak. But for me as a mother, I'm like, my mind's blown up. I'm like, why are you giving them sweetened milk?
Yeah, it's sugar.
And then it's sugar. But for me, I'm like, then I quite, because when I went on the ground, this was many years ago, when I went on the ground, I cannot be all hi-fi, all on my high horse, because that's what they can afford. One tin, how much only? At that time, it was about 2 ringgit, 3 ringgit. One formula milk, which you need to put a few scoops of powder milk into to make one, it's like 10 times the expense. So who am I to say you should be doing this and doing that? They don't have the means. So and then when I work with my other activist friends also, they say, kenapa tak menyusu je? But you have to understand that they have anak so young, like we've got like 4-year gap, 5-year gap. They've got like one anak after another. Can you bayangkan? Because we try, and in Islam also, you try and feed the child for breastfeed them for 2 years. Okay, but like one after another, you beranak. 1 year, and then your tete like, ayo, So the mother also penat, and then the mother has to go and look for livelihood, go and cari ikan lah, go to the paddy fields lah. So what is the next best option? Condensed milk lah.
Yeah.
So before we get too judgmental, we have to put ourselves in their shoes lah. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's because we, of course, activists will say, kenapa tak minta milk powder? Kenapa tak buat je? Kenapa tak bagi susu ibu? Susu ibu kan murah, free, bagus lagi. Then we realize, it's another difficult problem altogether. Too many kids, dry up already.
You keep a very busy schedule. Sometimes that when you act in movies, you go to very awkward, far off places, for the shooting, and then you many times you're an MC and in various places. So how do you cope with this breastfeeding requirement for your kids?
I remember having to shoot Syndicate, a movie we had to do in the rural kampungs in Kundasang in Ranau. And at that time, Iman was, I think, 1 year, 2 years. So we brought her over. So my husband, my good old husband, was the one who had to look after while I went on shoot lah. But she was still breastfeeding. But I'm in the hutan. There was one scene where I'm in the hutan and we're there for a good 6 hours now. And I don't have my, yeah lah, it's so panas. So my ice area to keep my milk was melting. And, so that was, it can be quite daunting at the same time, like trying to exclusively breastfeed your child, kan? But I soldiered on, and my husband, I think I'm very, very blessed that I have a very supportive husband who ensures that my breastfeeding journey is tip top. I didn't have a very good breastfeeding journey with the firstborn, probably because it was my first time as a mom and I didn't have the support that I needed. So it was very hard. She only had maybe a good less than 2 months. So for Iman, the second child, I think macam, kasihan my firstborn. I give everything. She was breastfed until she was 4, until my girlfriends and my sister was like, okay, that's a bit girly already. She's like 4 years old. I think it's time for her to unlatch herself from your breast. And I'm like, okay lah, maybe Game of Thrones too much already, this one. But yes. Yes, I've had my share of, it's penat, it's tiring, especially like if I'm in between emceeing and I'm wearing this beautiful gown and then I have to remove everything to go and pump and put all the things, ting, ting, tang, tang. Sometimes it drips. There was once I was doing recently, just during the CMCO, I was doing a Maggie event. And the whole thing just fell on my baju. So it's much, and then you wash it up, but there's milk stains, is oily. So you leave a little mark. Praise God that my clients were very understanding, because I said, this is how life is. We were also addressing the fact that this is CMCO. Everyone has to practice social distancing, and I'm a mother of a newborn, and this has happened. So it was great. You keep it, I think, as long as you're authentic and you keep it real, people will understand. Thank God my client was understandable. Yes, it can be tricky.
Okay, now we have got social media.
Yeah.
How have you been using social media as a platform to create this awareness? What kind of content do you generate to send out the message to your followers? And there are millions of them, okay?
Oddly enough, my social media platform started out because it started out with my YouTube, actually. There were things that I couldn't say over broadcast television. Being a morning talk show host and being in the news current affairs department, religion, politics, no. You know that, Chunwai.
All the regulators.
Yes, all the regulators.
And the busybodies.
Yes. So Daphne Iking is the daughter of Moses Iking, which cannot keep still, cannot keep quiet, have to be vocalized. So I used that as my outlet. And it was a private YouTube channel that I just wanted to do just to express myself. And whoever were my subscribers then were people that I trusted. And the same goes for my Facebook and then Instagram, Twitter, etc. And then it became a phase where social media was deemed by the clients to see, okay, kalau dia banyak follower, maksudnya dia hebat. So mau tak mau, I had to unprivatize my Instagram pages and stuff like that. Yeah. So if you look at my past postings, it's always been very real, very authentic, and I say what I want to say, and I don't care, because that is my page and that is how I feel. But now that it is public, I am a little bit more mindful, because I know that I have that platform to influence people. I say this with because there was once where I was not showing off. I was just being accountable for the health fitness regime that I had promised my trainer. And I said, I will do this, and I will make sure that I hit this. So I was I was posting it up on my progress. Without any means to show off on it. It was just for me to be accountable that I have done this and my trainer can see it. And then someone DM'd me and said, kawan, you tahu tak, our friend, another girlfriend of ours, unfollowed you. And I said, why? Oh, because she got so depressed, knowing that both of you delivered at the same time, and now you look like that, and she doesn't feel all that great, and she's going through very bad postpartum depression. And I felt awful, because my intention was not to mengada, like, hey, look at me, yo. Sure. Mine was for my personal benefit, It wasn't to rub it into anyone. So I had to quickly make I felt it was right that I quickly made an announcement that, oh, just to let you all know that this is my progress and this is something that I want. And I explained it. And I said, but everything's not perfect. Like in the mornings,
Yes.
I take my pictures in the morning. And morning, you know how it's not as bloated as when you do it like in the afternoon, you know. So today I'm doing it in the afternoon and I want to show you my bloat because this is how it is. My skin isn't perfect. I've got stretch marks. And I want to be authentic because I don't want other people to think that this is what you have to strive for. I'm naturally someone who's athletic and I enjoy my sports and hardcore activities. So it comes naturally for me to aim for that vision, you know. But for other people, macam susah. So going back about my social media influencing, I have to be very careful and mindful and to use it to add value to other people. So but sadly, it's actually the more fun pictures that attract more likes and engagement. The ones when I talk about statelessness or when I talk about cancer, some really taboo topics, that's something that doesn't really garner a lot of as much engagement as, say, the announcement of my newborn, for instance. So,
Yes.
but I try. We've got that
That's
platform.
normal.
You try.
That is, I think that as with all social media platform, even it's meant to be positive and meant to encourage people to take up exercising. Like I'm sure that was what you wanted to do, to share what you were doing. But there's always this downside where people sometimes they take it in a different way. So
Correct.
like you cannot run away. And plus the fact that you're a celebrity, and the last thing that you want to do, especially if we talk on certain subjects, is to have to apologize later. Minta maaf. Okay.
Yeah,
So
so I didn't apologize per se, but I did say, you know, just to let you all know, this is the real thing. Now it's afternoon 5 p.m. Ni boncet dia. I selalu pakai high waist, you know. I don't want people to think that life is all so perfect because I've got my downsides. And I also document that, you know, when
okay.
there's times when I don't feel so great and I just say it.
Yeah. You're a normal human being, and
I
celebrities
am.
are just normal human beings like everybody else.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Definitely. Are there any other celebrities who have come on board this breast awareness campaign?
I know a lot of them will come on board. I've you know, surprising people like Harith Iskandar. He's someone
Really?
who he well, I guess his wife was the one who sort of manages Dr.
Yes,
Jasmine
yes, yes.
Barida
Okay.
kan.
Okay.
So, but he's quite into it. So I know he
Yeah.
does. I'm sure there are a lot of other celebs who are very invested in it, and especially those who um, have gone through it. I think Mei Zhi. Yeah, she's someone who always creates awareness on this. Also, Ben Ibrahim.
Yes, yes, yes.
Surprisingly, more guys also are on board talking
Yeah.
about this. Yasmin Yusuf. Yeah, we've got a
Mm.
few.
So the average ordinary Malaysians,
Yeah.
what can they do to help promote this campaign?
I think at the end of the day, it's you yourself first doing something proactive. So, for instance, if you're a mom, you yourself needs to do your own, or you're a mom or a woman, doesn't matter if you're a mom or not, but you're a woman, you should have your own self breast examinations and talk about it. You don't have to put it on social media, but you can create that awareness amongst your community, your mom, your daughter, your siblings, your best friend. Talk about it. Don't make it a taboo topic. That can be a starter. That can be a topic starter first. Like, today I did my breast ni ni ni. You tak tahu ke macam mana nak buat? Baik I ajar you. Come, I teach you, you know. And then we can go even bigger where you're using your social media platforms, all those content creators out there to come up with really funny ways. Surprisingly, I don't know why I've got this orange on my table, but you know, it can be as simple as creating a content where this is your breast and this is how you should examine it, and it comes as naturally as that. Most importantly is just to ensure that you have early detection. So that really helps. And cancer kills, but if we know about it early, you can, you know, cure it. It can be cured.
So when you go on your campaign rounds, what are mostly the kind of message that you do? I mean, beside just appearing, and endorsing something, what would usually be your kind of a message that you want to impress upon your audience? Besides sort of like tell them besides going for early detection, what other things that you say?
I think most of the time I just want to hear their story.
Mm-hmm.
Why they, for instance, if they're not familiar with the topic, why is that? or if they are, why are they fearful in getting checkup, or if they have had it, or they know someone who has it, how much extent do they know about the treatments and stuff like that. I'm more of interested in hearing the stories of the hows and whys and whens and whats. Of course, because I like talking to people. So if I do go on the ground, I think that's what I like to do most. Because then when you hear their stories, you sort of gather, okay, it's not so much about people not being aware about breast cancer, it's because they're fearful. Now then, how do we as activists or advocates address this fear so that they won't be fearful anymore? What sort of messaging can we change in order for them to say, okay, we need to do this aggressively, we need to be a bit more proactive in getting our breast checked, or who do we speak to? Some don't even know who to go to, So it's when I go down and I start engaging with them, I think that's more important, so that I sort of am collecting data from them and feeding it back and telling the team, maybe this messaging is not working so well with this community because dorang punya culture is different. Kita kena buat macam ni. So that would be, I like to do that on my role or my task.
And also to send a message that breast cancer is not a death sentence. It
No, it's
can
not.
be helped at the early stage.
Yeah, it can be, but you have to be you have to go and get the right treatment lah. Don't pandai-pandai think that, oh, I'm gonna makan this ubat, that's XYZ, or go, oh my god, I had one case where they googled it, Mr. Google kan, everything kan, everyone becomes a doctor, and they found out these pills from the black market, and they felt that that was a faster way. And there was another reason. So that's where I'd like to go back to listening to the story. Like, why did you do that, as opposed to so much easier kan if you just go and see the doctor? What was that reason? Because actually, she had a vaginal infection. So it was itchy there. So she was worried that if they checked her breast, they would examine everything, and later on, she was worried that the husband would think she was cheating on him because she had a thrush. Padahal it was a normal bacterial infection that happens to certain women in certain parts of their lives or age because of the hormones that's taking place. But that was the fear tau, ChunWai. So can you imagine, like, lagi senang kan, instead of you trying to borrow your data to get the information, to get this ubat about your breast cancer, you could have just gone to the doctor. But her fear was, nanti the doctor will find out that her vagina is itchy. Later she think the husband will think that she cheated on him. So that's where the story comes. I'm like, oh my god, here I am judging someone based on apa ni? Kenapa check Google? But the fear was more from something else. So yeah.
Is finance always an issue when it comes to many women patients who may have problems getting themselves to be examined or checked or going to hospital?
Possibly because like my mom, she was a nurse in Queen Elizabeth Hospital in KK. So she has so dad was able to, what's the word for it lah, macam she gets rights lah, I mean not rights, apa kau panggil tu, macam daddy can be part of the governmental, what do you call that, perks, because she's a government service. So my dad would automatically have access to the service quite faster when we found out he had cancer kan. But naturally, as us kids, his children, we said like, ayah, no need to wait for the government hospital because there's a waiting list, and then so sempit. We can afford to rukut like tong together to get my dad into a better healthcare. Better. We say better because we automatically think less waiting lists, nicer facilities. That's what we think is better. But my mom said, actually this hospital is very good. It's very good. It's just, it doesn't look like the private hospitals that you guys are so used to. So I know I'm not really answering your question, but that's just it. Financially we can afford it. Financially we can afford it. But some people would think that in order to treat that that cancer, you have to go to an expensive private hospital to get things done, you know, and that is also another fear where they say like, never mind lah, I try and treat it myself first lah, because they have this the idea that the government hospitals will not do a good job, but actually our government hospitals are fantastic, amazing. It's just a waiting list, was ramai kan, and so much more cheaper. So yes, but if you have the means to go for private, then go ahead. But yeah, we have fantastic facilities here.
You know
Hospitals.
that for followers who are watching this program, if you have a cataract problem, you don't have to really go to a private hospital. I can tell you as a matter of fact that the Sungai Buloh Hospital has got the best cataract facilities in Malaysia. And if you go there, you will really, really be surprised at the level of facilities they have it over there.
And how much was it, ChunWai? Much
I'm not
cheaper
sure.
kan?
Yeah, it's much cheaper. Definitely, definitely.
Much cheaper.
I've done my cataract, okay, and had my cataract done. I had my short sightedness done, and it was really expensive. Now
You went private lah, obviously.
and much later, somebody told me you shall just go into Sungai Buloh where they have a cataract facilities. And as I, and a couple of years, I started sitting on the board of a medical foundation where we help patients, poor people. And when we look through it, there's a panel of doctors, and I began to learn from these doctors that look, the amount of medical charges that if you go to a private hospital and a government hospital, is so much different. And in terms of facilities, in fact, the best specialists, if you've got the worst kind of situation, the best guys are in the government hospital. And sometimes I think we underestimate our government hospital and the people down there. And when I sat down finally to look through the prices and the kind of facilities they have, I tell you, we have really good medical services in town.
Yeah. We just, I think they're just overwhelmed right now.
Yeah.
So I think that's the only thing that we need improving on lah. The facilities, the brain power is there. It's just that just that part, to beautify it or to make things a little bit better. But we have really good doctors. Yeah. So you're right, Junwai. You're right.
Definitely one final question before I let you off. Okay. You have a beautiful family. You bring it up very well. Been very open-minded. You know. Now, how do you instill among young people, our kids? Look, they need to be. They should open up their minds, open up their hearts. Okay, and that to tell them that look, cases like breast cancer and that many types of cancer, our body parts. How do we instill into them that look, these are just normal things. Okay. There's no reason to feel shameful or be taboo about in a way that we should be able to instill on them. How do you do it to your kids?
I think you have to be truthful. I'm very truthful to my kids. Of course, we do it according to age-related categories, because I talk about sex. I talk about very taboo topics like LGBT and stuff like that. And I was very cross because I remember when we laid my father's coffin down, okay, I was still breastfeeding the third child, Isidore. So I was a little bit far off. So I was breastfeeding him while my father's coffin was being lowered down. And Iman, who was just 4 years old then, she started asking people like, why are you planting grandpa? Why are you planting Aki? Why is he going to grow into a tree? And I didn't know this yet because I was, of course, at the other side crying my heart out with my baby on one side. I was very furious because someone told my daughter that my father passed away because of cancer because he drank too much beer. So my father has this knack of drinking a bottle or two of beer lah kan. Satu dua lah sana kampung kan, biasalah orang ni kan. So every time my daughter sees anyone with a beer can or a beer bottle, she'll say, "You're gonna get cancer." You know, yeah. So I had to sit down. I said, "Girl, who told you that?" You know, and then it was one uncle, my relative. I was very angry with him. I said, "No. Aki didn't die because he drank beer and he got cancer. That's not how it works." So I had to re-explain to her because, you know, my daughter's very outspoken, just like her mother and her father. So she just randomly saw some stranger and said like, "Hey, you drink beer, you're going to get cancer," you know. When, oh my God, don't say that. You have to be truthful to your children, no matter what the topic is, no matter how hard. And I can say this because I've had to have really difficult conversations with all my children and still having them. But you just have to do it because as a child myself, and I was one rebellious child, I was very playful and very rebellious. If we are not given the truth, we will somehow figure it out our way, and you don't want to figure it out by Googling the internet where it may or may not be the truth. So, yeah, I think it's best that the truth and the authentic side of what they want to know must come from the parents, because at least we'll be able to tell them as it is and not be, don't shy away, don't stigmatize it.
Thank you, Daphne. And
Thank
thank
you,
you, Joe, for
Dato'.
making this possible, Joe. Okay. And that,
Sure.
yeah, man. Okay. Continue what you're doing. Speak up
Thank you.
for breast cancer awareness.
Thank you so
doing
much.
a great job. Okay. And
Thank you.
finally, please remember to like, follow, and share RealChunWai as well as definitely on social media. Thank you. Good night.
Absolutely. Good night, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.